Today, I want to have a heart-to-heart conversation with you guys. So I'm in my late 30s now, and I'm glad to say I'm very happy with where I am in life right now. I have a fulfilling day job where I get to help people. I have time to work on my passion, and I get to travel. However, in my 20s, I was a completely different person. I had the wrong priorities for a long time, and I wasn't even aware of it. Honestly, there's so many things that I wish I knew earlier because it would have made my life so much more fulfilling and abundant a lot earlier. The first thing I wish I knew earlier is that loving your job or what you do is not a reason or an excuse to not plan for your future. Several years ago, I was very lucky to come across the FIRE community where people talk about how to achieve financial independence and early retirement. And in this circle, you sometimes see people who argue they don't like the FIRE movement because they love what they do for a living and they don't ever want to retire. But I don't think that is the point. First of all, things can always change. For example, I work in a fairly stable industry, but during COVID, I had to stop working for several months. What more, even if you love your job might not love you back one day, especially seeing we now live in the era of AI where more and more jobs are getting replaced. Secondly, how is it ever a bad idea to prepare for the unexpected hiccups in life? I mean, what if one day you want to relocate? Or what if you can't do your job anymore because of a health condition? And what if your priorities change? If we're really honest with ourselves, life is full of changes and uncertainties. So even if you're perfectly happy with your job right now, future planning should always be your top priority. Like I said, I really enjoy what I do, but I also really appreciate the option to walk away if things change. And I think this kind of leverage is one of the best things you can give to your future self. Number 2, I wish I didn't bother trying to impress anyone with material things. In my 20s, I was a very insecure person. I would always compare myself to people around my age, and when I saw them doing really well for themselves, I felt the need to seek validation. And for me, it came in the form of expensive luxury shopping. I've talked about this before, but to give you some context, I didn't come from money, and I used to long for nice things as a child. As I grew older, I started associating a good life with owning very nice things. And for a while, I did feel really good when I put on my Cartier Love bracelet and I wore my Chanel handbags. I thought showcasing these expensive luxury items meant people would take me more seriously. And maybe they did, right? Especially in certain settings, like a car dealership and designer stores. But you know what? I've come to realize that it's simply not worth my effort and my money to try to impress other people. This is why I haven't been doing luxury shopping for several years because I know I already have enough. So if I keep buying more, I'm simply doing it to impress other people. I feel like a lot of the overconsumption we see nowadays comes from the desire to impress. For example, upgrading a perfectly okay car, buying the latest iPhone, and moving into a house that is too big for your needs. These are the things we don't need, but they make us look good. At least on the surface, right? And I know this probably comes with age and some life experiences, but I really wish I had spent all that time, energy, and money on the right priorities. Because at the end of the day, people who love you will not care if you are wearing a Chanel or driving a Ferrari. Something else that I wish I knew earlier is to invest as early as possible. In fact, I'll go as far as saying the very first thing you need to do with your every paycheck is to invest. For a long time, I thought investing was only for the really wealthy people. But the truth is, if you understand inflation and how money works, you'll see that your only option is to invest if you want to maintain your quality of life. This is not being taught at schools, and I think there's a reason for it, which is why it's so important for us to self-educate. I've actually been actively trying to teach my little boy about this because I just wish someone had told me years ago about the importance of making our money work for us. And that brings me to the next thing I wish I knew earlier, and that is to invest in myself. If there's one thing that has quietly changed the direction of my life, it is learning to keep learning. For a while, I thought education ended when school did, but that is such a big mistake because real growth comes from when you learn out of curiosity, not obligation. And when I talk about learning, it can be from books, podcasts, conversation, and so on. And the whole idea is to expand the way you see yourself and the world. For me, reading is one of the best things I've done for myself. In fact, certain books have completely changed my life in the most positive ways. I started reading when I was in a very insecure place. I felt really miserable because I was always overworking and overspending, and I was so desperate for a way out. And so I started reading some self-help books, and that led me to books about investing, minimalism, fiction, classics, and graphic novels. I now read quite widely, and every time I pick up a book, I always learn something new. Now, ever since I learned about intentional spending, I don't buy a lot of things, but I will always see books as an investment for myself. Number 5, I wish I had loved myself a little bit more. When I was little, I used to really enjoy art. I was always doodling, drawing, painting, and playing with watercolor. But like I said, I come from quite a humble background, and during my teenage years, I already knew that I had nothing to fall back on. So I gathered I should work really hard to get good grades, just so I could get myself a job with a stable income. And with that, I gave up on art altogether. I spent all my time studying and I wouldn't allow myself any leisure time. Eventually, I was really fortunate to get a scholarship to go to a dental school here in the UK. But the whole time I was in university, and even after I graduated, I would not allow myself the luxury of enjoying art. Looking back, I think I just didn't feel like I deserved to do what I enjoyed. I remember thinking to myself, well, I've worked so hard to get to where I am, so I better work myself to the ground to make good use of my qualification. And so, unsurprisingly, I was completely burnt out and so miserable. But luckily, several years ago, I came across an online class about digital illustration, and I finally allowed myself to embrace my passion for creativity and art. In the last few years, I've been doing illustrations very consistently, and I've never been happier. And because of that, I feel a lot more passionate about life in general. I encourage my family to go do what they love. I have a lot more empathy for my patients, and I truly look forward to the future. So what I'm saying is, I understand we all have commitments in life, but you should never forget to be kind to yourself. If there's something that you really enjoy doing, don't feel guilty about carving out some time for it. When you feel content and happy, that's when you can live your life to the fullest. On that note, I want to share a quote with you guys, and it's from a book that I got from Yosemite when I visited America a few months ago. And it goes like this: don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Something else I wish I had done earlier is to say no to toxic people. Here's the thing, some people just drain your energy. They always make you feel like you can never say or do the right thing, and even if you are having the best day, they somehow manage to make you feel so small. And these are the people you need to stay away from, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. In my 20s, I used to just put up with toxic people. I would even tell myself, maybe they're just having a bad day, maybe I've done something to upset them, and maybe I should just do better. In my 30s, I realized some people are just not meant to be in your life, and there's no point in trying so hard. The older I get, the more protective I get about my inner peace and my positive energy. I do my best to be kind to people, but if they're not ready to do the same, moving on is the right thing to do. Moving on to number 7, I wish I knew things are just things and that too much material things can actually be a burden. Now, I have a few nice things in my wardrobe, including some luxury bags and jewelry, but I don't think anyone should idolize any kind of material things, whether if it's a Ferrari, a pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, or an Hermes Birkin bag. I certainly went through that phase myself. There was a time in my life where I would spend hours going from one Chanel store to the other, trying to look for a limited edition bag. And let me tell you, it's not worth it. In fact, I cannot actually think of one thing that I regret not buying. So if you're in the position to buy something nice for yourself, by all means do it. But if you have other priorities to take care of, you should feel really proud of yourself for doing the right thing. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not good enough or that you're falling behind. If someone judges you because of the things you have or don't have, they are the problem, not you. And those are the things I wish I knew earlier. Now, every now and again, I like to take some time to do some self-reflection because I think it really helps me grow as a person, and it also gives me a sense of direction for the future. I hope these are helpful for you as well for your own path of growth. Thank you for being here. Take care, and I'll see you soon.